Intel's stock price fell by 9% in just one day after its earnings call. So let's see what were discussed at the conference call. CEO Pat Gelsinger kicked off the call by saying that while Q1 was a bit weaker than initially expected, he sees it as the bottom, and the following four factors will drive revenue growth into 2025. First, growing momentum by AI PCs. Second, data center CPU recovery. Third, cycle recoveries in NEX, Mobileye, and Altera. And finally, Intel Foundry starting mass production for outside customers. He then provided the following business updates. The Intel 20A, which paves the way for the 18A, will begin production later this year. And Intel expanded technology roadmap by introducing 14A, the industry's first process node to utilize high-NA EUV technology. So the company's IDM 2.0 strategy, which centers around this 5 nodes in 4 years goal, is moving along smoothly. Intel received the largest award from the CHIPS and Science Act, totaling over $45 billion in proposed grants, tax incentives, and loans. And during Intel Vision 2024, the company unveiled the next-generation Gaudi 3 accelerator to over 1,000 top customers and partners. For your information, Intel's conference calls are usually filled with various product names, technical capacities, ramp-up timings, and other semi-lingos. But since this video is to understand Intel's big picture in shareholders' perspective, I'll just focus on business-related content, and you should check out the full conference call for other technical details. Moving on, Gelsinger introduced a new operating model for the first time, which is reporting Intel products and Intel Foundry separately. He emphasized that while there may be some controversy about Intel Foundry's P&L at first, this is an important step in building a target for the revenue and cost of the Intel Foundry business. Then he talked about each of the three segments. First, in the CCG segment, which is mostly CPU and other chips for PC market, Meteor Lake, the next-gen CPU chip, is key for Intel. He claimed that Intel is defining and leading the AI PC category as the overall PC market expands. He anticipates increased demand in the year's second half due to emerging standards, new AI-embedded capabilities, and a likely corporate refresh. Furthermore, he emphasized that Meteor Lake surpasses expectations, and its unit production is set to double in Q2. And enhancements in Meteor Lake supply are expected to push shipments beyond the initial $40 million AI PC CPU target for 2024. Additionally, next year, Intel aims to extend its lead with enhancements to Meteor Lake and Intel 18A, strengthening its market share through its product roadmap, and launch its first Intel 3 server product, the Xeon 6 Sierra Forest. In the data center business, he emphasized Gaudi 3, Intel's newest AI accelerator. He stated that the launch of Gaudi 3 has bolstered Intel's position in accelerated computing for data centers and cloud, anticipating over $500 million in revenue in the second half of 2024. And this momentum to grow into 2025 due to superior TCO and increased supply alongside significant customer engagement with Intel Developer Cloud. It's important to realize that Intel's positive view on AI accelerator is based on its supply. Since the GPU AI accelerator market is very supply constrained at the moment, Intel's ability to meet customer demand alone will help it grow. After describing Intel's products, CEO Gelsinger described Intel's Foundry. Here, he emphasized that Intel is taking a long-term view, noting that transitioning from pre-ultraviolet to post-ultraviolet wafers is very favorable for the company. This is because the ASPs are expected to grow 3 times faster than cost in the next decade, which will expand margins significantly. Intel's capability to manufacture leading-edge chips will allow many customers to manufacture the most advanced chips at home in the US, rather than outsource them to Asia. Related to this, he noted that Intel signed a meaningful 6th contract on Intel 18A this quarter from an additional federal aerospace and defense customer. He projected the foundry market overall to grow from $110 billion today to $240 billion by 2030, with nearly 90% of that growth coming from EUV nodes and advanced packaging. And given the growth of these front-end markets, Intel will be the largest system foundry in AI chips and the second largest foundry overall by 2030. From these numbers, we can estimate that Intel's $15 billion in external revenue represents less than 15% market share in the foundry market at the moment. But since the overall market is growing and Intel's share is expected to grow, We made sure to reflect that in our DCF model of Intel. And lastly, Gelsinger mentioned that in the all other category, Altera will be a publicly listed company in the next few years, like how Mobileye was listed to unlock shareholder value. So taking a step back, it looks like Intel is spinning off non-core businesses to increase capital and focus them heavily on its new products and more importantly, its foundry business. Now, let's look at Intel's financial performance in the first quarter. The total revenue was $12.7 billion, up 9% year over year. And this revenue can be broken down the following way. First, Intel products are divided into three categories. CCG, mostly PC CPU chips, generated $7.5 billion in revenue, up 31% year over year. Data center and AI, mostly CPU chips in data center, and where Gaudi 3 will be included going forward, generated $3 billion, up 5% year over year. And network and edge revenue was $1.4 billion, down 8% year over year. Intel Foundry revenue was $4.4 billion, which is down 10% YOY. So even though Intel is developing the technology and signing new contracts in this segment, the Foundry ramp-up is yet to come. And all other results decreased significantly, down about 50% year over year. So in the revenue side, the traditional Intel products are showing significant improvements, while Foundry and other future businesses are lagging behind. While the total revenue increased by 9%, the total operating expenses increased even faster and were up 15% year over year. If we look into the numbers, more than two-thirds of this was in R&D, which was $4.4 billion just in the first quarter. If we sum this up, Intel's operating loss continued since last year, but showed improvement from $1.5 billion of loss a year ago to $1 billion of loss this quarter. And this negative result was mostly due to heavy investment into the Foundry business, which alone created $2.5 billion of operating loss in Q1. So if we exclude this Foundry segment, Intel created operating profit. And in terms of the three product segments, all parts generated profits and showed meaningful improvements from a year ago, from $1 billion operating profit to more than $3 billion this quarter. Finally, Intel's cash flow is summarized as below. Operating cash flow was negative $1 billion, and CapEx was about $6 billion. So overall, Intel's burning cash fast for its future investment. Now onto the Q&A section. Regarding the server in the data center, Gelsinger said that Intel's market share is stabilizing, with ASPs rising steadily. So Intel sees very healthy growth in the mid-20s for 2024, as well as a lot of customer interest in Xeon's AI capabilities. 70 billion parameter models can now be run directly on Xeon, making it a powerful product for many enterprise use cases. And with next year's release of Clearwater Forest, the 18A server chip, Intel has a good position in the data center overall and the AI chip market. Next, about the role of specific CPU in AI era. Gelsinger noted that while LLMs run on accelerators, CPUs will continue to be important because all the real-time data runs on CPUs and sometimes doesn't require accelerators. Also, often data is on-premises, and Intel can run 70 billion parameter models natively on Xeons, which provides incredible TCO value for customers. So based on these, he claimed that x86 CPUs will continue to play an important role in the transition into AI PCs. He also emphasized that AI PCs as a whole new category and that TAM will grow tremendously, and added that in the future, all computers will be AI PCs. Lastly, on the profitability guidance, the CFO said that while he expects additional costs next year, revenue growth in the long term will improve margins. He added that Intel is now operating more efficiently under the new business structure, but the effect of this will be felt over a year or two. Finally, let's take a look at some major news on Intel. First, the company celebrated the opening of Fab 9, its cutting-edge factory in New Mexico. This milestone is part of Intel's previously announced $3.5 billion investment to equip its New Mexico operations for the manufacturing of advanced semiconductor packaging, including Intel's breakthrough 3D packaging technology called Foveros. Also, there were several news coverage on how major semiconductor companies like Samsung and TSMC finalized US government subsidy to produce chips in the US. However, as the market already expected, and as CEO Gelsinger explained, Intel received the most amount of subsidy. And since Intel is investing heavily in its foundry business, despite operating losses and net cash outflow, Such subsidy will definitely come in handy. Okay, that's it for the update on Intel. As the management explained, and as we saw in its financials, Intel's future depends heavily on the success of its leading-edge foundry business. And despite all the technological breakthroughs and new customer contracts, Intel has yet to prove its value through tangible revenue and profit. And as the CFO said towards the end of the call, this might take another year or two for us to see. So overall, Intel still requires a long period of investor patience. I believe that one way to attain patience is to have a solid foundation on numbers regarding the industry and company valuation. And so if you want to check out the latest Intel DCF model, please check out the link below this video. Also, if you want to look at the NVIDIA valuation based on what its CEO Jensen Huang and AMD CEO Lisa Su have projected about the future of AI semiconductors, please check out this video. Thanks guys.